So hey guys, today we have Neha here who will be sharing us her journey from India to NTU Singapore as a master student and her journey how she got a job in ExxonMobil, which is probably the top 10 Fortune 500 companies in the world, and also how she was able to come back to India and start her own startup. But first, a quick shout out to Skillshare for partnering with us in this video. And Skillshare comes with a lot of courses such as video editing, filmmaking, Photoshop, design, and also accounting and finance, which pretty much every student should know, and it is a life skill now. So that's why I'll recommend all of you guys to check out this complete introduction to finance and accounting. And if you will use the link in the description below, you will get free premium trial, and later on it's going to be very affordable as well. So hi Neha, can you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here, Harnoor. I am Neha Agrawal. I am the founder of WiseUp Communications. So WiseUp is a venture to help students and professionals improve their communication skills for better career opportunities. And before I started WiseUp, I completed my master's from NTU in Singapore, and I also worked at ExxonMobil in Singapore. So yeah, that's me.
And also I'll leave the link for WiseUp Communications in the description below. It has helped a lot of students. तो start करते हैं आपकी background से. तो how was your journey from India to Singapore? तो आपने bachelor's कहाँ से की? आपकी पूरी journey मतलब 9th से आप बता सकते हो कि आपका शुरू में कहाँ पे interest था, फिर आपकी undergrad and then masters.
So 11 and 12 say, like from the very beginning I had interest in science, and again I was a very studious person. So ऐसा होता है ना इंडिया में, अगर आप पढ़ाई करते हो तो you have to take science. So I was preparing for my engineering and काफी ज़्यादा मेहनत की IITs में करने के लिए, but at the end नहीं हुआ. So, but I knew that I wanted to do chemical engineering. Coding was not for me. So computer science was completely out of the subject. So I got chemical engineering at RVC in Bangalore. So I decided to take that up. And फिर लगा कि IIT में नहीं हुआ मेरा, तो RV में जो कर सकती हूँ, जितना मेहनत कर सकती हूँ, I should do that. So I worked really hard at RV, and I obviously liked chemical engineering. And so I actually got a gold medal for that later on. And that actually helped me get admission in NTU. So I was oriented towards research a little bit when I was doing my undergrad, because I had taken up like few research internships in IIT and at ICT Mumbai. So I was like, I want to do research ahead in my career. So then I decided to take a master's with thesis, which is like research based. And when I was getting admission, so when I was actually applying for masters, I had two offers. So one was from NTU in Singapore, and another one was in Georgia Tech. So at that time, I decided to like go ahead with NTU, and there were a few reasons why I actually did that. So first was when I was obviously looking online, we all check rankings of colleges, right? So I was actually looking at department-wise ranking. So I wanted to do material science. And when I looked at the material science ranking of NTU, it was number 3 in the world, just after MIT and Stanford. So I thought, yaar, kuch to baat hogi is college mein, is university mein, that, the department is ranked so high, while Georgia Tech was at like somewhere number 10 or something. So that was one reason. Then the second reason was that I was getting the research topic that I wanted to work on that was more closely related to what I was getting in NTU as compared to Georgia Tech. And thirdly was obviously the proximity, right? Pass mein hai Singapore, you can actually just, take a 4-hour flight and come back and forth, like travel back and forth to India. And my brother was already there in the US. He was doing his master's in UST. So my parents were like, beta, ek bacha to bahari hai. You at least stay nearby, So I was like, theek hai. So combining all of that, I actually made a decision to go to NTU Singapore at that time.
Wow. And also, just to mention, I'm just 1 mile away from Georgia Tech. मतलब मैं इतना पास हूँ. So I definitely agree. Engineering overall में Georgia Tech better है, but NTU definitely better होगा chemical engineering में. And on the top of that, आपने बाकी countries किसी और में apply किया, like US, Singapore?
So I applied to US and I applied to Singapore. तो मैंने 8 universities में apply किया था in the US, and I had other offers, but the best offer was from Georgia Tech in the US, and then I had NTU in Singapore. So total, I applied to like 10 universities, because everybody tells you to like apply to what was these 3 categories, that's safe, good, and there were some 3 categories. So then accordingly, I chose like, colleges and belonging to those 3 categories. Yeah. So that's how the selection process went.
Awesome. And हम स्टार्ट करते हैं एप्लीकेशन प्रोसेस से. तो जब आप बोथ कंट्रीज में पैरेलली अप्लाई कर रहे थे, तो कौन से एग्जाम्स आपने दिए? लाइक डिड यू चूज टोफल ओवर आईएलटीएस के दोनों एक्सेप्टेड थे
तो
दोनों
आई
कंट्रीज
गेव
में?
GRE, डेफिनेटली GRE तो देना ही था. अदर देन दैट आई डिसाइडेड टू गो फॉर टोफल. सो पीपल टोल्ड मी दैट टोफल इज फाइन, इट्स इजियर टू क्रैक ऑल्सो. तो मतलब आई नेवर हैड टू माइंड्स अबाउट इट कि IELTS की टोफल. आई वाज लाइक चलो टोफल ही देते हैं, बिकॉज all my peers around me, they were giving TOEFL, and it actually worked for both countries very easily. So GRE TOEFL scores were accepted in Singapore as well as in the US.
Okay. And अगर scholarships के बारे में बात करें, like I have heard about the bond personally for undergraduate students कि अगर आप 6 साल का bond sign करो तो 100% scholarship मिल जाती है, 3 साल का करो तो you get 50% scholarship. तो like in terms of fees आपको differences मिले and आपको scholarship मिली?
So I was going for a master's program. Undergrad में this 6-year bond thing works very well, and a lot of students opt for that because if you're studying for 4 years, the cost can be very high. So for masters, it was actually not like that. In fact, the cost was semester based for me because I was going for a research program. So the number of semesters you attend, for every semester, you will have to pay that fees. And they usually don't give scholarships for masters. It's more applicable for like PhD positions where you get scholarships easily. But I did have an option to go for a bond. So I did take a service obligation bond, which had the criteria that I will have to work in Singapore for 3 years after I graduate. And that actually reduced my fees by nearly 50%.
So it is true for masters. अगर आप 6 years का करते हैं आपको भी 100% मिल सकती थी या
नहीं, 6 years वाला does not apply to masters at all. It's just for undergrad.
Got it. And overall, like if you compare Georgia Tech or versus NTU, तो कितना फर्क पड़ता है in terms of fees? Because I personally know कि Georgia Tech charges $40,000 for master's students, but जिनको funding मिल जाती है, they pay approximately $5,000 to $10,000 a year. तो आपको कितना पड़ा NTU?
So at the time I couldn't inquire मतलब I did not know the full Georgia Tech fees at that time because I did not go ahead with the application. But I was still supposed to show in my account that I have 30 lakhs. To be able to study in Georgia Tech, while NTU mein I did not have any of this criteria that you have to show like a particular bank balance to be able to study. And fees per semester was 5 lakh rupees. So I studied for three semesters. So I had to pay a total of 15 lakhs. That's after the bond obligation.
Oh, that is really affordable क्योंकि अगर आप if you compare masters versus MBA fees in India,
it's
so
crazy.
India में MBA fees is crazy.
It's
So
crazy.
that's definitely affordable masters. And on the top of that आपको part time job opportunities मिलती है. उससे आप like कर पाए थे offset अपनी जो 5 lakh?
So बहुत actually part time jobs बहुत easily available है Singapore में भी. So a lot of my friends were working as tuition teachers. So they used to teach maths and science to 5th and 6th standard students in Singapore. Then you could also like work at Giant and Prime. So these are like supermarkets. So you can actually work as supermarket staff for $10 an hour. So you actually really don't have to worry about that. And when I was working as a communication coach, because I was a master student, I was getting $18 per hour. So in a month, I was able to make around $700, $800. And that actually covered my living expenses. So I did not have to worry about that.
But Singapore is one of the most expensive country या city कह लो in terms of living expenses. तो वहाँ पे कितने होते हैं that you were able to at least afford that?
Right. So actually US में, tell me, please correct me if I'm wrong. तो US में क्या होता है कि that on-campus accommodation is more expensive than off-campus one, right?
Correct.
And Singapore में opposite है. Singapore में they have subsidized the on-campus accommodation, so it's cheaper as compared to off-campus. And you also get preference over locals because you're a foreign student, so they give you preference as well. So I used to live on campus, so my rent was around $400, and baki $300, $400 was in food and just going out sometimes. So $800 में काम हो जाता था, which is like pretty decent for international standards.
Yeah, that is amazing. तो इस कारण you were easily able to offset that and जो आपने 5 lakh fees की उसमें आपने did you include housing or without housing?
Without housing.
Now let's talk about the career opportunities. तो आपको mainly if you talk about engineering and especially chemical engineering, तो both आप overall मतलब generalize कर सकते हो in terms of engineering. आपको कैसा लगा कि like is there a हार्श कंपटीशन कि लोग एक दूसरे को, मतलब हमारे यहाँ पे यूएस में क्या होता है कि इतने ज्यादा इंडियंस है, आप एक दूसरे से इतना ज्यादा compete कर रहे होते हो कि you get scared कि बाद में क्या होगा. So but like mostly लोगों को जॉब मिल जाती है, but there's a competition of lot in between देसीज की बहुत डर लगता है कभी कभी. तो आपको मतलब कैसा फील हुआ?
So undergrad की masters?
Masters.
Masters. So, actually, not a lot of competition that way because there are not a lot of Indians in this program that I go to. There were a lot of Indians in electrical engineering and computer science engineering, as you said, but not a lot of people opt for material science. So, I did not have a lot of Indians competing with me. So, it was never like that. And it was more like a coursework plus research based program. So, when you have that research component, now everybody's research happens at its own pace. So people are really not competing so much with each other. And but the facilities, like there was such a stark difference. Itna zyada difference tha between the facilities that I had in my college in India and abroad. Matlab, facilities in terms of infrastructure was top notch, research equipments, everything was amazing. Faculty, like one of the best in the world. So from that aspect, like whatever you wanted to do in terms of research, everything was available to you. And that was actually a really good experience of studying there.
Oh, तो इतना ज्यादा in terms of research when you do working together, आप एक दूसरे के साथ, it's not like a pyramid strategy कि आपको एक दूसरे को beat करना है. So it's
Yeah,
like it's more about teamwork. इस कारण आपको इतना feel हुआ है. That is amazing.
correct.
But what was the biggest reason that कि आपको Exxon Mobil में job भी मिल गई after studying there? तो आप you left Singapore and came to India. What was the biggest reason for that?
So, as I said, for me, I realized communication skills were a game changer for me. So, when I was in India, I really didn't care about communication skills. Like, I had a very small group of friends and always used to speak to them. इतना बातचीत नहीं होती थी लोगों से. Very, very bookish when I was in India. But जब बाहर गई, right, and I started my research project, ऐसा होता था कि for 12 hours I was in the lab and constantly working and I'm not even speaking to anybody. And that actually got to me. I'm like, मैं ऐसे नहीं रह सकती. I can't spend my entire day not speaking to anyone. And that's when I decided, I am going to start initiating conversations. So it was not like there are a lot of Indians and very few international students. It was opposite. There were a lot of international students there. And I was like, there's so much to learn from everybody. I cannot not speak to these people. So that's when I actually started initiating conversations, opened up, and then I also took this part-time job of a communication coach that, further enhanced my communication skills. And I realized that it can play such an important role. And usi time man kiya कि, I should come back to India and I should teach students कि see, communication skills can help you so much. How to make a resume, how to deliver a presentation. These things are so important in somebody's career. But I was like, नहीं, इतना पैसा खर्चा करके पढ़ाई की है, तो I have to recover that back. I was like, ठीक है, let's keep this plan on hold and let's start looking for a job. So I was a fresh graduate and thoda difficulty hui obviously job ढूंढने में भी. And finally I got into Exxon Mobil. So it's actually one of the best companies that you can work in as a chemical engineer, right? It's a Fortune 5 company. So I was like, इससे better job नहीं मिल सकती in Singapore. So I worked there for a bit and I realized कि वहाँ पे भी communication skills played a very important role, right? So if you were not able to express what your technical knowledge is, what your expertise is, communicate that to your team, they thought, यार नहीं आता इसको तो कुछ, right? So this is how they used to perceive other people who did not have good communication skills. And to be honest, itna maza nahi aa raha tha kaam mein. So I was like, I'll not be able to work in a plant for so long. You have to go to the plant, work there for long hours under the sun. You have to climb like tall towers and all that. So I was like, no, this is not me. I can't do this for a very long time. So then I decided ki nahi, this is something I wanted to do from a very long time. And yeah, it's now time to go back home and start this up. So that's why I came back and started Wise Up.
Awesome. And I'm sure कि अगर आप impact measure करो, Wise Up Communications has already impacted thousands of students as
Yeah.
compared to just handful in ExxonMobil, maybe,
Yeah,
right?
I mean that is true. So एक ये भी लगता है, right? When you're working in a corporate job, you start thinking that what is the impact that I'm making? Because the impact that you make is very indirect, right? You're doing something, and then so I was working in a plant, so and I was making sure that the plant works smoothly, and the plant is then making a product, and that product is then helping somebody else. So it's a very long chain of how you are making an impact, and you're a very small component in that process, right? But the work that I am doing, I am able to directly make an impact. And when my students come to me and tell me that, ma'am, I attended your resume workshop, I attended your interview workshop, and I've got a job in ZS Associates, or I've got a job in so and so company, that makes me very happy. Right? So startup run karna is not easy, and most of the time is like those depressing phases, where you think that यार क्या कर रही हूँ life में, इतनी अच्छी जॉब थी सिंगापुर में, इतना इंडिपेंडेंस था, सब कुछ अच्छा था, why did I come back? But when I listen to these stories, and when my students come back and tell me that, ma'am, I got a job because I attended your workshop, I'm like, ठीक है, life में कुछ तो ठीक कर रही हूँ, and I should continue doing that, keep doing this, because later on, it's just, the journey is going to get easier.